Hi everyone, thank you so much for investing in yourself as a photographer. Today's course is super exciting. It's all about my editing workflow from start to finish. I basically just want to show you how you can edit your photos in the most efficient way possible. So let's get started. So first I want to talk about importing. Importing is the first thing that you do once you're done shooting your session and you're ready to edit. You'll always want to use a hard drive and not import photos right onto your computer. This is really important for saving space on your computer. When you import photos, you're going to go directly from your SD card onto your hard drive, and from there you're going to import into Lightroom from your main hard drive. You'll want to make sure that Add is selected in Lightroom so it doesn't make additional copies of the photos on your computer. I'm going to show you how to do this because I know what I said can be a little confusing. Okay, so I have my two hard drives plugged in here and then my SD card is right here. So first I'm going to find a place to put my photos in my hard drive. So this top one is my main hard drive. I have them organized by a few folders. I'm gonna open up the photography folder, and in this case this session was an engagement, so engagements 2020. And then I'm going to make a new folder and name it after my couple. So now that I have Tori and Sam, I'm gonna open that up and create another folder, and I call it All Raw. And then from there, I'm gonna open up that folder and bring my photos from the SD card into my hard drive. So how I do this is just Command A, selecting all of the photos, then I Command C, copy them, and click in my folder that I want them to go to, and then I just Command V. So there's 10 gigs of photos, so it's gonna take a little while for them to copy over. So while I'm waiting, I'm gonna go into my backup hard drive, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing. So I go to my photography folder, engagements, 2020, and then I make a new folder called Tori and Sam. And then once I open the folder, I create a new folder called All Raw. So basically this is just where all of my raw photos go. And again, Command C, and then click over here where I want them to go, and I Command V. I am going to open Lightroom and create a new catalog. So the easiest way to do this is to go to File, New Catalog, and then I just type the names of my couple. So in this case, it's Tori and Sam, and then I hit create, and as you can see, I do this for every shoot that I have. Over here on the left, down at the bottom, you just hit import, and then this big, really confusing screen is going to pop up. So basically on the left, it's trying to figure out where you want to pull the photos from. So as you can see, this is my computer. This is going to be my first main hard drive. This is my backup hard drive, and this is the SD card. So I want to pull the photos from my main hard drive. You can also pull them from your backups, but I just prefer to do the main. So I go down and find where that all raw folder is, which is right here, and I'll click on it and all of my photos will pop up. So the next thing you want to make sure is that this add is selected. You don't want to hit any of these other ones, only because if you hit copy, it will copy your photos to a new location and it'll show you where it's copying them to. So because I already have backups, I just do add from my hard drive and it does not move them from the hard drive. Over here, I also click Build Smart Previews. We're going to get into this in a little bit about what Smart Previews are. So you can click Smart Previews now or you can build them later. Just for the sake of this video, I'm going to build them later. And everything else is all set. So all I have to do is click Import. And now they're gonna start importing directly from my hard drive onto this Lightroom catalog. So if I ever unplug my hard drive, I will not be able to edit these photos right now. So before we jump back into editing, I just want to talk about backups just briefly. Backups are a workflow that are going to keep your photos safe, and you really want to create that for your photography business. So when you import your photos, just like I showed you, you're going to import them directly onto two hard drives, which automatically gives you two backups. Then when you're shooting, so before you even import your photos, you'll want to shoot on 2 SD cards. And when you shoot on 2 SD cards, you want to keep those cards safe until the final images are delivered to your client. So automatically you're going to have 4 backups in case something happens to your computer, to your hard drives, or to your SD cards. Another great option for backups as kind of a 5th alternative is to use Backblaze, which is a cloud service that backs up your files in the background automatically. The only reason that I don't use Backblaze as my main backup source is because it does take a little while to back up RAWs and all of these large files that we're working with. So I prefer to just have it as an alternative in the background just in case something does happen. So let's talk about Smart Previews. Smart Previews let you edit without a hard drive. Basically, a Smart Preview is going to be a compressed and editable version of your raw image, and you can do this for every single image that you import into your catalog. Smart Previews do take a few minutes to create, but they save a lot of time when you're culling and color editing. Smart Previews are going to speed up the load time of your images, so culling becomes much quicker. It's important to know that you should not export with only Smart Previews. You always want to plug in your hard drive when you're ready to export. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to build Smart Previews. When I imported, you had the option to click the Smart Previews checkbox, which you can do that to build Smart Previews, but if you've already imported, this is how you're going to do it from the library module. So to start, I select all of my photos that are in my catalog. So you can see I Command A to get all of my photos selected. Then I go up to the top and I go to Library, Previews, and Build Smart Previews. Once this is selected, it literally just goes and automatically builds Smart Previews for you. As you can see, it moves a little slower than we'd like, but if you just take a break for 5 minutes or so, they should be completed. So while I'm waiting for my Smart Previews to build, let's talk about the culling and editing process. If you're new to photography terms, culling is the process of picking the images that you want to deliver to your client, and editing is going to be the process of color correcting each culled image. In Lightroom, you'll want to cull in the Library tab and then edit in the Develop tab. I'm going to show you a brief overview of how I cull and edit my photos in Lightroom. Okay, so my Smart Previews are built, and I know this because if you look at each individual photo, there is a rectangle with like little dots around it, and that means that the photos have Smart Previews attached to them. So I've actually unplugged my hard drive for this process because I want to show you how fast it is to edit without your hard drive and to use Smart Previews. So to start, I want to pick the images that I want to deliver to my client. So I am just going to go to this wider view, and using the arrows on my keypad, I'm going to navigate between each photo. And any photo that I want to include in my gallery, I just click Pick, which is actually just the P button on your keyboard. So basically what I'm doing is I am flagging the photos that I want, and any photo that I don't want, I just leave and I don't do anything else to those photos. I just pick the ones that I want. So as I go through, I look to see which ones I want, and then I will click P. If I don't want a photo and I already flagged it, all I have to do is click U and it will unflag my photo for me. So it's really simple. You can see all these photos load really easily, and I just go through and pick the best ones, the ones that are in focus, and the ones that I just think are the ones that I want to include. And once all of these are picked, all I have to do is go to this bottom view, go to filters, and change it to flagged. And now only my flagged photos are going to pop up on my view, which means now I'm ready to edit. So now that I'm ready to edit and all my photos are culled, I'm going to switch over to this Develop tab. And it's really simple. All that I do is I will paste my preset onto here, make some minor adjustments like exposure, temperature, and tint. And once I like the edit, I will Command C or copy the settings and move on to my next photo and paste them. It's really simple. Another great option for getting your photos to sync up with settings is to just edit one photo and then select the ones after them. And then if you click sync, now all of these photos will be synced with the edit that you had on that first image. So let's talk about a few keyboard shortcuts that I use in Lightroom to help speed up my process. As you could see, I was using Control-C to copy my settings and then Control-V to paste my settings. I also use P to flag my photos and U to unflag my photos. Then I will use the R button to access the crop tool. I use a slash button to see my before and after, and the Q button will get me to the spot removal tool. It's really helpful to sync your settings for multiple images. If you have multiple photos with the same lighting, you can just edit the first image and sync the settings with the rest of the images. Just make sure that you select them all. So once your photos are culled and edited, the next step is to export them. Before you export, you'll want to change the metadata in Lightroom for SEO purposes. So this is an optional thing, but if you use a website and you blog your photos, this is what I do to optimize my SEO. I will change my sublocation to my location. In my file name, I will use SEO keywords. In my alt text, I will describe each image. And in my caption, I make sure I credit myself as a photographer. When you're exporting, you want to make sure that you are in JPEG, that your quality is between 91 and 100. Your color should be in sRGB, and your resolution needs to be at 300 pixels per inch. Now let's get into exporting. You want to make sure that you are in this library tab, and the next thing we're going to do is change my metadata. So I'm going to go to the grid view, and I'm going to select all of my flagged photos. So the first thing I do is change my sublocation to my city, which for this case is Grand Rapids, Michigan. And when I hit enter, it should change the metadata of all of my photos. So if I click on every photo, you can see the metadata doesn't change for Grand Rapids. And after that, I change my title to my SEO keywords. So in this case, I will do Grand Rapids wedding photographer. It'll change the metadata on all of my photos. You just want to make sure that all of the photos are selected while you're doing this. And the last thing I'm going to do is change my caption to credit myself. So I just say Cassidy Lynn, but you can do photos by Cassidy Lynn or whatever you want. And that is it. After that, we will export. So now that my photos are all selected, I go down to export, and now is where you're going to make sure that your settings are all lined up. So the first thing that we're going to do is choose where we want our photos to export. So I am going to export them to my hard drives. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my folder for this couple. So right here, and I'm actually going to create a new folder and just call it edits. After that, I go down to file settings and just make sure it is on JPEG, and your quality should be anywhere from 91 to 100, and you want to make sure that your color space is sRGB. After that, go down to resolution and make sure it's on 300 pixels per inch, and that is it. After that, you are just going to hit export, and it should export to your hard drive in the folder that you want it to. After you export your photos, now you're going to deliver to your clients. So you'll want to choose a delivery service that is your favorite or that you prefer. I love PicTime, but a few options that other photographers use are PassGallery and Pixieset. They're basically just delivery services that make your photos look really nice, put them in a gallery view, and send the gallery directly to people's emails from PicTime or PassGallery or whatever service you use. So I highly recommend using one of these three services. A lot of them have options for free gigs up until a certain point. So do your research and be professional in the way that you deliver your photos. That is it for my editing workflow. I hope that you learned a lot and that this will help you speed up your editing process from beginning to end. Make sure you check out the other guides in my shop and feel free to shoot me a DM or a message if you have any questions.